Hello guys and welcome to today's session. Today we are going to talk about load balancing of SCEP and NDES via Intune. So this is going to be comparatively a shorter one, and this is what I have in the agenda. First, we are going to understand the background of what exactly load balancing is. We'll talk about the different redundancy approaches we have with NDES and SCEP, like having active-active setup for NDES, having active-active setup for NDES and CA, having active-passive setup for NDES, and then we'll understand the background flow and the logs that is happening at the back end when we are doing an active active or active passive setup, and then we'll see how we can deploy certificates from different certificate templates via the same NDES and Intune. All right, so before we get started, I wanted to call out this video which I've done recently. It's a revamp on understanding SCEP and NDES with Intune. I would definitely encourage checking this video out first, because only after we have understood how SCEP and NDES works, we should take the next step of load balancing it. So highly recommend checking this video out. And if you have already checked this video out, then you are at the right place. All right. So let's now understand some background and understand why exactly do we need to load balance or have a high availability setup for NDES. So in production, if you have an NDES server, almost all the production environment will be having a load balanced setup for NDES, because it is not scalable if you have a single point of failure. If you have only one app proxy or only one NDES server, what if that NDES server goes down? Or what if you need to do the maintenance of the NDES server? Obviously, you need a downtime, but what if there are devices which are getting enrolled? You cannot risk devices not getting certificate because the CA admin or the server admin has to patch the NDES server, right? Hence, we need to make sure that we are having more than one in our infrastructure. And in an enterprise infrastructure, most of the organizations will be choosing to have a multiple NDES in their environment. So the reason for having more than one NDES, that is pretty much self-explanatory, right? You want to make sure that your NDES is load balanced so that only one server is not servicing all the requests. Otherwise, there might be a CPU hike. Otherwise, there will be crashes and stuff like that. And you need to make sure that there is not single point of failure, because if there is only one NDES, that NDES goes down, your environment goes for a toss. All right. So now that is pretty much what the slide is explaining. If the NDES is redundant, there is no user impact if the NDES server goes down. And if there are two NDES servers, then our infrastructure is more scalable and load balanced, because some requests is getting routed to NDES 1 and some requests are getting routed to NDES 2. Therefore, one server is not taking all the hits. Now, we have got these three approaches as far as making our NDES redundant is concerned. First is active-active setup for NDES. So in this case, we will have two NDES servers, this and 1 and 2, and both the NDES servers will be active at the same point. So if let's say that there are two devices, or let's say there are 10 devices, the devices can either reach out to NDES 1 and some devices can reach out to NDES 2. This is the best setup because your NDES is load balanced, as well as there is not single point of failure. So let's say that there is a device which reached out to NDES 1, and at that point of time NDES 1 was down, so the device will automatically reach out to NDES 2. So this is the advantage of having an active-active setup. The devices have a failback mechanism in case one of the NDES is down, and the NDES is also happy because all the hits are not coming to the same server. Now the second setup is active-active setup for NDES and the CA. So let's say that there is this NDES server which is talking to this CA, and there is the second NDES server which is talking to the second CA. So let's say that this NDES goes down, the devices can talk with this NDES server. Or let's say that this CA goes down, or both these NDES and CA goes down, then the devices can talk to this NDES and this NDES can talk to this CA. right? So this is more load balanced, and you have a better failover in this case because you have got redundancy for NDES as well as redundancy for CA, as well as both are load balanced. And then we have an active passive setup. So the active passive setup, there will be two NDES servers, NDES 1 and NDES 2. By default, NDES 1 will be the functional one and NDES 2 will be standby. Or you can even power this NDES 2 server down. Now, whenever you have to do maintenance of NDES 1, then you power on NDES 2 and route all the requests from devices to NDES2 instead of NDES1. So by default, devices are talking to NDES1, but when you are going to power off NDES1, let's say for any maintenance, you power on NDES2, route all the requests from the devices to NDES2, and you do the maintenance of NDES1 as needed. And later on in this nugget, we are going to understand all these three approaches as well as the background flow behind all these three approaches one by one. So now first let's understand the first approach, that is having an active setup for NDES. This is providing redundancy as well as load balancing. And this is, in my personal opinion, this is the recommended approach. All right. So first let's understand the different components in this diagram. So first we have Microsoft Intune. This is the service to which devices are getting enrolled. These are my devices. I have all the operating system devices in present over here. This is my app proxy. This is the NDES server. This is the certification authority. Now I have got two NDES server, NDES 1 and NDES 2, and I've got two app proxy 1 and app proxy 2. Both the NDES servers are talking to the same CA. The NDES 2 server is published as an enterprise application by app proxy 2. NDES 1 is published as an enterprise application as app proxy 1. Now, the SCEP profile that is made in the Intune service, this is deployed to the device. So that is the very first step. The first step that happens is the SCEP profile is deployed to the device that is enrolled to Intune. Now, the SCEP profile contains both the proxy URLs. It contains the proxy URL for proxy 1, which is pointing to NDES 1, and it contains the proxy URL for 2, which is pointing to NDES 2. So the device now randomly selects one of the URLs. So the device has got the SCEP profile. The SCEP profile contains proxy URL 1 and proxy URL 2. Device is randomly going to select one. Let's say that the device has chosen proxy URL 1. So the device is going to reach out to the proxy URL 1. The app proxy is going to forward that request to NDES 1. The NDES 1 is going to do all the validation that it needs to do, and then it is going to forward the request to certification authority. The certification authority is going to issue the certificate, send it back to the NDES, and the NDES is going to send the certificate back to the device. So this is the normal flow that happens. The only thing that we have changed is we have provided two URLs to the device. Now let's assume that either app proxy 1 or NDES 1 are down. In that case, what will happen is, again, the device has got the SCEP profile. The SCEP profile contains proxy URL 1 and proxy URL 2. The device is again going to choose one of the URLs randomly. Now let's say that the device again chose proxy URL 1. The device is going to reach out to the proxy, app proxy URL 1. In this case, let's say that the application proxy is down. Or let's say even if the application proxy was up, let's say that the NDES was down. So when the request was getting forwarded by the app proxy to the NDES server, let's say that that forwarding was not performed correctly since the NDES was down. In that case, this flow is going to fail. In that case, what is going to happen? The device is automatically going to pick the second URL. So what is going to happen now? Since proxy URL 1 failed, the device is going to pick up the proxy URL 2 and reach out to app proxy 2, which is going to forward the request to NDES 2, which is going to forward the request to the certification authority. So in this case, the advantage, as we can see over here, when application proxy 1 was down or when NDES 1 was down, let's say that the device first chose app proxy URL 1, and if this flow failed, the device is automatically going to choose the second URL and follow the second flow. And you can have multiple URLs over here. So you can have app proxy URL 3, wherein you have third app proxy and a third NDES server, and so on and so forth. So over here you are having redundancy, and one NDES is not a single point of failure. That is advantage one. Now let's say that both the URLs are up. So let's say that there was 5 devices. The first 3 devices chose app proxy URL 1. So they reached out to app proxy 1 and then in turn to NDES 1 and then to CA. Let's say that the last 2 devices chose app proxy 2. So those devices are going to reach out to app proxy 2 and then NDES 2 and then the CA. So in this case, we see that the load is also balanced, as in all the devices are not reaching out to the same app proxy or to the same NDES. It is randomized and the devices are randomly choosing the URL. So over here, we are getting both the advantages. First, there is not single point of failure. And second, everything is load balanced. Now we can do some enhancements of this previous diagram. So in this case, we see that the NDES was redundant and load balanced. How about we load balance and do a redundancy of the NDES as well as the CA? How do we do that? Let's take a look over this diagram. So in this diagram, we have got the Microsoft Intune service. We have these devices which are enrolled, and now app proxy 1, NDES 1, and the NDES 1 is talking to CA 1, and we also have app proxy 2 NDES 2, and the NDES 2 is talking with CA2. Now again the same drill. The SCEP profile comes down to the device. The profile contains both the proxy URL 1 and proxy URL 2. The device randomly chooses one of the URLs. Let's say that the device chose proxy URL 1. So the device is going to reach out to proxy URL 1, which is going to reach out to the NDES 1, which is going to reach out to the CA1, which is going to issue the certificate and give it back to the device. Now let's say that either the app proxy 1 or the NDES 1 or the CA1, any of these were down. So if that is down, then the first flow is going to fail. Then the device is automatically going to choose the proxy 2 URL, and via that it is going to reach out to NDES 2 and CA2 and it's going to get the certificate. So in this case, we have load balancing as well as redundancy of both the NDES as well as the CA. However, in this case, we need one extra NDES and one extra CA. So if you don't want any of this, you will be having just one NDES and one CA. Over here, we have got 2 NDESs and 2 CAs, both load balancing each other and providing each other redundancy. Okay, now let's talk about active passive setup. What if, let's say that you cannot have so many servers running in your environment at the same time? Because at this point of time, well, the app proxy can be installed in the same server as NDES, but still you need to have one, two, three, four servers running in your environment at the same point, right? What if you don't have that bandwidth or infrastructure to have 4 servers running at the same time? In that case, we can have a active passive setup for NDES. Now let's in this diagram understand what exactly active passive setup means. So these are the components that we have. We have the Microsoft Intune service. These are the devices which are enrolled to Intune. We have the app proxy 1, which is talking to NDES 1, which is talking to the CA. And then we have the app proxy 2, which is talking to NDES 2, which is talking to the same CA or a different CA. Okay. So by default, what is happening is the SCEP profile is coming down to the device, and the profile is containing only one URL. That is the app proxy URL 1. And at this point of time, app proxy URL 2 and NDES 2 are not functional. We can even power down the app proxy URL 2 server and the NDES server because these are passive servers. This and this are the active server, and the servers that are at the bottom, these are passive server. These are not working right now. So the device gets the SCEP profile. The SCEP profile contains app proxy URL 1. The device reaches out to the proxy URL 1, and the proxy URL 1 forwards the request to NDES 1, which forwards the request to CA, and the same. Now, let's say that either the app proxy 1 or the NDES server 1 are down. In this case, what we are going to do, we are going to bring up the app proxy 2 and the NDES 2 server. These servers were passive. Now we have powered these server on. However, once these servers have been powered on, there is a change that the admin has to make. So now you see that the SCEP profile has been modified. So now the Intune admin goes to the SCEP profile and he changes the URL in the SCEP profile from appproxy1 to appproxy2, since appproxy1 is down right now. So now the device reaches out to appproxy2, which reaches out to NDES2, which reaches out to the CA, and we get the certificate. So this is a active passive model wherein we have a appproxy and a NDES which are active all the time, and we have a appproxy and the NDES which are passive all the time. Now, what we are doing is first we are redirecting all the traffic to appproxy1 and NDES1, and appproxy2 and NDES2 are powered off or not being used right now. And when we have to do a scheduled maintenance of approxy1 and NDES1, or let's say in case of any unexpected downtime, what we do is we bring up the approxy2 and NDES2 and we point all the devices to approxy2 by modifying the SCEP profile and mentioning approxy2 over there, right? So this is going to be typically a active passive setup for NDES. All right, now let's understand the flow and the logs behind active setup. So I'm going to I'll try to cover active setup for NDES in detail because this is the most used setup, and I'll say this is the recommended setup because over here you are getting the load balancing of NDES as well as redundancy of NDES. All right. So in case of active setup, as I said, the SCEP profile is going to contain multiple URLs, right? So this is my SCEP profile, and over here you can see I have got three URLs: NDES1, NDES2, and demo NDES. And all these three URLs are going to be provided to the device when the device gets this SCEP profile from the Intune service. Then the device is going to randomly choose one of these URLs and it's going to reach out to it. Now let's go to the device. This is the syncml log from a Windows device which was enrolled to Intune and targeted by this policy. So over here, when we take the syncml trace, we can see that the device is getting all the three URLs. It's getting the demo NDES URL, the NDES1 URL, and I've copied it into Notepad so it's easier to read. It's containing the demo NDES URL, the NDES1 URL, as well as the NDES2 URL. Now the device is going to randomly choose one of these URLs. Now in this case, what I have deliberately done is I have powered down two of the NDES. I have powered down the NDES2 and I have powered down the demo NDES. Okay. So the device got all these three URLs. The device reached out to NDES2 first. And over here, you can see the timestamp as well. So at 3:58:21, it reached out to demo NDES, which was one of the URLs. When this failed, and why did this fail? This failed because I had powered down this server. I was replicating a scenario wherein the server is not reachable. The server is unexpectedly down. So when this failed, just 1 second later at 3:58:22, the device reached out to the second NDES server, which is NDES2. Now in this case, the second URL was also down, not reachable because the second NDES server was also powered down. Then what happened? Then the device automatically failed back to the third URL. So over here you see that the device failed over to the third URL, and you see few seconds later. So this was 3:58:20, and then this is 3:58:30. So just around 9 seconds later, you see that the device was able to reach out to NDES1. So there were three URLs. The URLs were NDES1, NDES2, and demo. NDES2 and demo was down. Device reached out to this URL first, then it reached out to this URL first. When both these failed, then the device reached out to NDES1. Since NDES1 was up, device was able to get a certificate from the NDES1 URL. And that is what we are seeing logged over here. And what logs am I looking at? These are the device logs. We are looking at the device management enterprise diagnostic provider from the Win11 machine 3. So this is typically how a flow for uh, load balancing or redundancy of NDES works. Now, I have not shown any other logs because all the other logs are going to remain the same as it is during a normal skip delivery, which I have explained in the previous nugget. Therefore, I have only shown the log wherein the device tried to reach out to the first NDES, which was not successful. Then it tried to reach out to the second NDES, which was not successful. Then it tried to reach out to the third NDES. Now, after it reached out to the third NDES, now think of it like that's the only NDES present. Now everything else is going to remain the same. The device has reached out to the NDES. NDES is going to reach out to the Intune service, which is going to do the validation of the CSR, and then everything else is going to remain the same. So I'm not discussing all of that over here. For that, as I said, please refer to my previous nugget. But by this, we can understand now that how exactly the load balancing as well as redundancy of NDES is working at the background. And later on, when we are at the lab, you will see that I ended up making these many NDES different profiles and a lot of NDES, and I did a lot of testing, which we are going to see in the demo as well. And we can use the multiple URL methodology for load balancing and redundancy of NDES for all the operating systems. So even though in the demo, I'm just going to talk about primarily Windows because it is easier to demonstrate, but this can be used for Windows, Android, iOS, macOS, all of them. So in all of them, all the three URLs are going to be delivered to the device, and the three or multiple URLs are going to be delivered to the device, and the operating system is randomly going to choose one. So this setup is going to work for all the operating systems. All right, the next thing we are going to see is how we can deploy certificates from different certificate templates via NDES and Intune. So let's understand the use case first. So our use case is, let's say that we have got three different users, and all these three different users have enrolled their devices to Intune. We have the NDES server over here, which is talking with the CA. There is only one NDES in our infrastructure, and there is only one CA in our infrastructure. Well, things would not change even if there were multiple NDESs, but I don't want to overcomplicate it for now. So let's say we have got only one NDES and one CA. Now, let's say that the user one requires a specific kind of a certificate, which is coming from a template named NDES template 1. This NDES template 1 is present in the CA. Now, user 2 requires a certificate from a different certificate template named NDES template 2, and user 3 requires certificate from NDES template 3. Now, why don't all the three users require certificate from the same template? That is because let's say that there is some setting that is contradicting in each of the templates. Let's say that in NDES template 1, it is running with SHA-1, and this is running with SHA-2, and this is running with some other attribute. So you cannot have the same attribute in the same template, right? If it is contradicting. Hence, so the use case here is this user needs a specific attribute which is presented in NDES template 1. This user needs a conflicting attribute from NDES template 1. Therefore, he requires certificate from NDES template 2. And similarly, this user again has a conflicting attribute as compared to NDES template 1 and NDES template 2. And hence, he requires certificate from NDES template 3. Now the scenario is, how do we meet this use case when we have only one NDES and one CA? Because when we are making a profile, we don't have an option of, let's say that we make three different profiles. Profile 1 for user 1, profile 2 for user 2, and profile 3 for user 3. But how do we map profile 1 with template 1? And how do we map profile 2 with template 2, and so on and so forth? Because when we make the SCEP profile, over there, we don't have an option of mentioning the name of the certificate template, right? Then how do we do this mapping of profile 1 with template 1 for user 1, profile 2 with template 2 with user 2? Well, profile 1 with user 1, that mapping can be done because you are going to assign this to a group which contains this user. But where do you mention the name of the template? That name is not there. So this is wherein we are going to understand this concept, which is going to clarify the things. I hope that the use case is clear. The use case is there are many scenarios wherein customers want to deploy different certificates from the same NDES, and all these certificates have conflicting settings. Like this user needs a certificate with this SHA value, this user needs a certificate with this SHA value, and so on and so forth. This is typically the case when both the certificate needs different hash algorithm or key size bits or stuff like that. In such situation, we cannot utilize the same certificate template to deploy both kind of certificates, as the settings in both contradict each other. Like over here, either you can have a let's say that there are three kind of key usages that you can have. So this template is only going to have one of them, right? And the certificate that this template generates is also going to have that specific key usage. But let's say that this user needs a different key usage, then this certificate template is not going to suffice, right? We would be needing a different certificate template. So that is what the use case is. So over here, we are trying to use the same issuing CA and the NDES to deploy certificates originating from different certificate templates. I hope we have understood by now that why do we need different certificate templates? We need that because there is some setting that is individually and uniquely mapped with each user. This user needs a specific setting in the template. This user needs a different specific setting in the template, and this user needs a different specific setting in the template. And you cannot have all the three settings in the same template because all of those three conflict each other. So that is the use case. Now, how do we achieve that? We achieve the so we are going to see how we can issue certificates from three different certificate templates using the same NDES and the same CA. And how do we do that? We are going to do that by using these three things. So there are three things that we need to know about if we need to deploy a certificate from different templates. The first is a screenshot from the SCEP profile in the Intune portal, and over there is something called key usage. Now this is very important. The second screenshot is from the registry of the NDES server. So, and this is the registry that we should already be aware of. This is wherein we update the name of the certificate template from which the certificate is going to be requested from by the NDES from the CA on behalf of the user, right? We have already seen this in detail when we saw about the flow in the previous Nugget. So we already know this location. It is HKLM software, Microsoft cryptography, and over here we have got these locations, these three registry values. And the third location is the name of the template. So over here, there is a template named NDES. So right now, the third screenshot is from the CA. When you have gone to the CA, when you have opened up the certification authority, and when you are looking at the properties of this certificate template, and when you go into the request handling tab, this is a screenshot of that. So these three things actually work in tandem as far as issuing a certificate on behalf of the user is concerned. And if we set these three values in conjunction, then we can achieve a use case wherein three users get three certificates from three different templates by using the same NDES and the CA. Obviously, we need to make three different profiles being that is targeted to each of these users. So this is what the slide is talking about as well. There is something called key usage in the SCEP profile, and then the name of the template in the relevant registry, and then the purpose field in the certificate template. This is the purpose field. These three things work in conjunction. Now let's see how the mapping works. So as far as the key usage is concerned, there are three kinds of key usage we can select in the SCEP profile, right? This is, as you can see, a mandatory parameter. So we have to select at least one of these two. So we can either select only digital signature, or we can select only key encipherment, or we can select both, which means that there are a possibility of three combinations. Similarly, over here in the registry value, we can see that there are three registry fields. One is the encryption template, second is the general purpose template, and third is the signature template. And similarly, over here in purpose, there are three drop downs that we have from which we can select. One is signature, second is encryption, third is signature and encryption. So over here we have got three options. Over here also we have got three options. And over here also we have got three options. So if we select the first option over here, the first option over here and the first option over here, that is one combination. If we select second option over here and second option over here and second over here, that is the second combination. And then similarly, if we select the third over here and third over here, then that is the third option. Now let us see what are these three combinations that we can select in these three different places. So the first option is we select only digital signature. Okay. So we select only digital signature in the profile, and in the key user in the SCEP profile, we have selected only digital signature. The corresponding registry for this is signature template. So if we have selected digital signature, the corresponding entry is signature template, this one. And the corresponding purpose in the certificate template is signature. So over here in the drop down, we will have to select signature. Right now we have selected signature and encryption. When you click on the drop down, there are three drop downs: signature, encryption, signature and encryption. So we have to select signature over here. So one possible setting over here is digital signature from here, plus in the registry we have to select signature template. So over here in the registry, plus in the purpose of the certificate template we have to select signature. If we have selected these three combinations, then let's see what is going to happen. Then what is going to happen is, if this profile, the certificate profile in the template which has selected digital signature over here, if this profile is assigned to, let's say, user 1, okay, let's call this profile 1 over here. If this profile is assigned to user 1, then the end user is going to get certificate from this template, because in the signature template value in registry we have to populate this with the name of the template, right? And what is the name of this template? Let's say the name of this template is NDES1. So we are going to populate this with the name NDES1. So the end user who has been assigned with this template, with this combination, is going to get a certificate from NDES1. Okay, now I'm going to clarify this more. I know this might be a little confusing. I'm going to specify this and clarify this more. But let's move ahead for a moment. Now let's see what is the second combination that is present. The second combination is having key encipherment in the SCEP profile. So in this drop down, we are selecting key encipherment, and in the corresponding registry we are going to populate the encryption template one. So this one is encryption template, and the purpose is going to be encryption. So in the template over here, this is the template in the CA. In this drop down, we are going to select encryption. Okay, now let's say the name of this template is NDES2. So we are going to populate this name NDES2 in the encryption template over here. So we are going to update this to NDES2. This is updated with NDES1. This is updated with NDES2. So the second combination over here is key encipherment plus encryption template in the registry plus encryption purpose in the certificate template. Okay, now let's say that this combination is present in the profile named profile to. Okay, and this is assigned to the second user. This user has got profile 2. This is the second possible combination. And now let's talk about the last combination, and I'm going to wrap it up and explain the overview. Now, the third combination that we have is digital signature and key encipherment, both selected in the profile. So we can make a third profile in the portal, and over there select both digital signature and key encipherment. And then the relevant registry for that is general purpose in the registry location in the NDES server. And let's say that over here the relevant template purpose is signature and encryption. So what is the combination now? Over here it is digital signature and key encipherment in the profile, plus the name of the registry is general purpose. So I'm just going to call this general purpose, and the name of the purpose in the template is signature and encryption. So signature and encryption. So let us say that we have selected this combination and the profile is profile 3 and it is assigned to the third user. Now let us see what this means. What this means is, and let's say that the name of this profile, name of this template is NDES3, this template which contains signature and encryption. So we are going, and the relevant, as I said, the relevant registry is general purpose. So we are going to update this with N3. Okay. So what this means is, now in the same NDES server in cryptography, there are these three registry values. In one of them, I have updated with the name NDES2, which is name of a template. In one of them, I have updated with the name NDES3, and in one of them, I have updated with NDES1. Now, NDES1, NDES2, NDES3 are three different certificate templates. Each template, and all these three templates are published in the CA. Okay. Now let's see what happens. So I hope that we have understood this mapping. Now the value in all the three above location need to be corresponding for a certificate, for a successful certificate delivery. If we make this configuration correctly, then we can achieve the use case of deploying certificates from different templates via the same NDES. So let's say that we have made this configuration. Now let's see what is the output. However, before we see the output, this is the configuration we have. In the NDES server, as you can see, we have got three different templates. You can name them whatever you want. I have named them, let's say, NDES, NDES1, and NDES2. NDES has signature and encryption in the purpose. NDES1 has only signature, and NDES2 has only encryption. This is template 1, this is template 2, and this is template 3. And all these three templates are published in the CA. So the screenshot is taken from the certification authority. Now let's talk about scenario 1. The scenario 1 that we just now spoke about, which is we are selecting digital signature in the key usage in the SCEP profile, and the corresponding registry entry is signature template, and then the purpose is signature. So we are going to understand that scenario. If the key user selected in the SCEP profile is digital signature, then the template name from the signature template registry will be fetched, and the template must have signature purpose. Now, this is the screenshot again of the same setting. Over here, you see that we have selected only digital signature. If we have selected digital signature, then the relevant entry is signature template. So if you have made this profile deployed to a user, it does not matter what entries are there in this and this. What only matters is the entry that is present over here in signature template. So even if you delete these two entries, nothing is going to happen. Even if you leave these two entries blank, still nothing is going to happen. Everything is going to work fine. So for digital signature, we have the relevant entry is signature template. So in the signature template, we have to update the name of the template from which the end user is going to get the certificate, and the name of the template over here is NDES1. So we have updated it over here, and this template should have the purpose of signature, which it does over here. Now, if this happens, then the end user is going to get a certificate from the NDES1 template. Similarly, for scenario 2, instead of digital signature, we have to select key encipherment, and the name of the registry is encryption template, and the purpose should be encryption. So you see the same thing over here. We have selected key encipherment, the registry entry is encryption template, and the purpose over here is encryption. And similarly for the third one, we have to select both over here, and the registry entry is general purpose, and the purpose in the template is signature encryption. So if you have this setup in place, then it means that as per our requirement, we can possibly issue three different certificates from three different certificate template without making any changes to without making any active changes. Now this is a screenshot from the issued certificate tab. Now you can see that there are three certificate issued with the request ID 22, 23 and 24. It was running with the service account NDES SVC. Now over here you can see that the same user named test had enrolled, let's say, three different devices, and there were three different profiles created for the test user, P1, P2 and P3. Now when I targeted the first profile to the user, the first profile was issued from the so over here you can see which template was used to issue the certificate, right? So you can see that the first one was issued from the template named NDES. The second was issued from the template named NDES2, and the third was issued using NDES1. So you have got NDES, NDES1 and NDES2. Three certificates from three different templates were issued to the same user. Well, in this case, it was issued to the same user because I targeted all the three profiles to the same user. If you would have wanted to target different profiles, then over here you could have had different users as well, right? So the point that I'm trying to make is, with the same certification authority or the issuing certificate and with the same NDES, we were able to issue certificates originating from three different certificate templates, meaning we were able to issue three different kinds of certificates having the same NDES and the same CA. So the above was achieved by pushing three different SCEP profiles via Intune, having key usages set as digital signature, key encipherment, and digital signature plus key encipherment respectively. And each of them had relevant purpose. So the digital signature one had relevant purpose. The key encipherment had relevant purpose. When I say relevant purpose, I mean purpose set in the template, in the purpose that is selected in the certificate template. And then the respective registry needs to be populated in the NDES server. As we have seen, each of these map with a specific registry entry. So this is the table that we need to keep in mind. If you have selected the right key usage, plus if you have selected the right registry, plus if you have selected the right purpose in the certificate template, then all these three together work to determine what is going to be the certificate template that is going to be used to deploy a certificate on behalf of the user. Okay, I'm not going to go into very details of the relevant flow because in the previous nugget that I've done, I have explained the flow very much in detail. But let's talk about the relevant flow over here. The SCEP profile is created by the admin. Over here, we are making three SCEP profiles, P1, P2, and P3. In P1, we are selecting digital signature, and then in P2, we are selecting key encipherment, and in P3, we are selecting digital signature and key encipherment. The profile is received by the device. This device sends a CSR to the NDES server. The NDES forwards the CSR to the Intune service. And then depending upon the key usage selected in the SCEP profile, the corresponding registry location is referenced. So if you are selecting digital signature, then the corresponding registry will be referenced. If you're selecting key encipherment, then so on and so forth. And then NDES is going to send a request to the CA and request for a certificate. Now a check is going to be made to make sure that the registry location plus the key usage that we had in the SCEP profile, whether it is in matching with the purpose in the certificate template or not when the request goes to the CA. If it does, then the CA is going to issue a certificate from the relevant certification template. And before it does that, the CA is going to run the check and make sure the template is correct or not, and the reference template is published or not. The account that is requesting for a certificate has permissions to request for a certificate or not, and the other values in the CSR are going to be validated by the Intune service only, whether the password is correct or not. By password, I mean the challenge and so on and so forth. And the CA is also going to check whether the purpose in the certificate template is correct or not. If all of this is correct, then the CA is going to issue the certificate, send it back to the NDES, NDES is going to send it back to the device. So this is how we issue certificates from three different certificate templates by using the same NDES and the CA. Okay, and I quickly wanted to bring your attention to this blog that I have written, and it talks about the very same thing, how we can deploy certificates from different certificate template via NDES and Intune. So pretty much same thing that we are talking over here. It talks about the relevant flow. It talks about the mapping that is there in the SCEP profile key usage and the corresponding entry and the purpose, and the end result that we see, that the end user is able to get certificates from three different templates. So enough talking done, guys. Let's quickly switch to the demo and let's see all of these things in live action. So guys, I'm at my lab right now, and these are the machines that I have running. Firstly, I have the domain controller, which has the certification authority also installed in it. And then I have three NDES servers, demo NDES, NDES 1 and NDES 2. And then I have a client machine, which is enrolled to Intune. So let's quickly take a look over the servers. So this is the demo NDES server, and as you can see internally, I am able to get the 403 forbidden error. I just refresh the page. This shows that the NDES is working fine. The second NDES, which is the other two NDESs are NDES 1 and NDES 2. I'm just refreshing the page. Everything is looking fine over here. And for NDES 2 as well, I can see the 403 forbidden error. So all of these looks good. Now let me show you the portal. This is the Intune portal, and I am able to get the 403 forbidden error externally as well. So earlier what we saw was inside the domain, and this is externally via the app proxy URL which has been published. So all the three URLs are working fine, and which shows that the NDES is working fine as well as the app proxy is working fine. So now what we are going to do is we are going to make a certificate profile for NDES, and we are going to use the load balancing technique that we have seen until now. So I'm going to click on create profile, and in the platform I'm going to select Windows 10 and later. The profile type is going to be templates, and over here I'm going to select the SCEP certificate. Let's click on create and let's just name this. Okay, so pretty standard. The certificate type is going to be user. The subject format name is going to be common name is equal to user. The subject alternative name is going to be UPN, and this is the attribute I'm going to use. The certificate validity is going to be 1 year. The KSP is going to be TPM. Key usage is going to be digital signature and key encipherment. Key size bits is going to be 2048. Hash algorithm is going to be SHA-2. We are going to link this to a root certificate. So just selected that over here. And the EKU is going to be client authentication. Everything is fine. And now I'm going to provide the SCEP URLs over here. So I'm going to provide all the three URLs. So first I copy the demo NDES URL, just paste it over here. Then I copy the NDES1 URL, I paste it over here, and then I copy the NDES2 URL and I paste it over here. All right, looks good. Next, I'm not going to assign this as of yet. the first thing we have to do is we have to assign the root certificate. Once the root certificate is deployed successfully, then the assignment of the SCEP is going to happen. So this is my root certificate. Let me quickly go and assign it. So we are going to go to the assignments. So now I'm coming back to the machine since the policy is assigned. Let's just quickly run a sync from the machine end and wait for the root certificate to come down. All right, so we just finished running a couple of syncs, and now if I go into device configuration, you see that the trusted root certificate has been deployed successfully. So let me quickly switch to the device and then check the presence of this certificate in the MMC. And there you go, in the local computer in the trusted root certificate store. Over here, we can see that there is this root certificate issued by Intune DCCA and issued to Intune DCCA. So this is the root certificate which has been successfully deployed to the device. So now we are all set to deploy the SCEP certificate. So before we deploy the SCEP certificate, I want to run the sync ML tool in the device so that we can see the three URLs coming down. So I just downloaded the sync ML tool from Oliver Kieshelbach. Just going to go to sync ML viewer and then dist and open the latest one, and then just going to click on syncml viewer. This is going to launch it, and I can run a syncml session from this device itself, um, which is going to see everything that's happening. So let me just run a mdm sync session and make sure that everything is being captured in this machine's syncml. Okay, so you see that stuff is getting captured. So we are all good. So now let me quickly go to the portal and assign the SCEP profile. So this is my SCEP profile called load balancing. I am going to quickly go to assignments and going to assign this to the group called load balancing. And then the assignment is done. I'm going to quickly go to the devices and run a sync for the device from the portal as well. So here you go. I just ran a sync. Now I'm going to come back to the device, and over here you can see since I ran a sync from the portal, automatically the sync started running and it started getting captured in the syncml tool. So I'm just going to wait for a couple of minutes, and then we are going to see whether the SCEP profile came down to the device or not. If it did, then what were the URLs provided to the device? So the MDM sync session just finished running. Now you can see that this is no longer grayed out. If I want, I can run another sync, but let me just do a control F with the word NDES because the word NDES was there in the URL. And over here, you can see the URL has come down as a part of the profile. So you see command ID 18, and over here, these are the, let me switch to the right. uh, 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 these are the server URLs. And what are the URLs that the device has received? It has received the URL ndes2, demo ndes, and ndes1. Okay, so this means that the device got the URLs. So if the device got the URLs, what is the next thing that is going to happen? The device is going to create the CSR, and it is going to send the CSR to one of these URLs. So what I'm going to do next is I am going to open the event viewer, and we are going to go to the enterprise diagnostic provider logs and see to which URL did the device send the CSR. Okay, there you go. The event ID 36 is here. If I double click and open this, you see that certificate request generated successfully, and it tried to reach out to NDES2. And since NDES2 server was up and running, it was able to get the response from NDES2, and then the event ID 39, which says that the SCEP certificate successfully installed. So there were three URLs that we saw over here, and the device chose NDES2, which is the first URL. However, it is not necessary that each time device is going to choose the first URL or the last URL. This is randomized. Now, if we go to the portal and see, so from the portal, we can see that our profile load balancing index has been successfully delivered to the device. All right, so far so good. We can also make sure that the profile has come down by going into the MMC. So if I open up the MMC real quick, and if I add a snap in for certificates, for user certificates, if I go into the personal store and then certificates, you can see that this certificate has been issued to EPM, issued by my CA. And if I scroll down, I can see the thumbprint, which is ending with F50. And if I check in the event in the logs, you can also see that the certificate has come down. And then this is the event viewer log. If we double click and open this, the ID is 309. And over here, you can see that the certificate thumbprint, which has been issued to the device, is over here ending with F50, which matches with the certificate that we just saw. All right, so far so good. Everything looks good. Now we are going to check the actual load balancing of this server. And what we are going to do is we are now going to power off two NDES. So NDES 2 and NDES 1 are going to be powered off, but we are not going to remove them from the profile. We are going to make sure that all the three URLs of NDES 1, NDES 2, and demo NDES come down to the device. And out of those three URLs, two are going to be inactive, and we are going to see whether the device automatically chooses the right one or not. So for that, let me just minimize this. And what I'm going to do is this is my demo NDES, and this is going to be the working one. So let me just log into this and make sure that everything is working fine. And yes, everything is working fine. Now my NDES 2, I am going to power this off. Okay. And now I'm going to power off the NDES 1 as well. Okay, so both the indices have been powered off. Now, if I go to the portal and if I refresh this, the demo index is still going to give me 403 forbidden, but the index 1 and index 2 should gateway timeout because the app proxy is no longer functional, because the server in which the index connector is installed is the same server in which the app proxy is also installed. So this is also going to show us a gateway timeout error. Okay, so now my load balancing repro is ready. One NDES is working, but the other two NDESs are not working. All right, so far so good. So I'm going to go back to my profile again, which is load balancing NDES. And in the assignments, let me add the assignment again. I've removed the old group, and let me just make the assignment for new load balancing group. This group contains the same user, that is EPM. So I'm just going to click on select, save, and then save. Uh, 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 and then we are going to just run a sync from the device end. So we are just going to wait it out and then see which URLs are getting delivered to the device now and which URL the device is picking. All right, so the sync just finished running. So again, the same drill. Let me do a control F with the word NDES. And now you see that the same URLs have come down to the device in the same sequence. So NDES 1, NDES 2, and demo NDES. Now I am going to open up the event viewer real quick and see what exactly transpired and to which URL did the device send the CSR. Okay, there you go. We are at the event viewer logs now, and at 3:58:53, you see an event ID 307. If I double click and open it, you see it says that SCEP failed logon error message. So what this means is that the device tried to reach out to this URL, but it failed to initialize the SCEP enrollment. With which server did it fail? It failed with NDES1. So the device tried to, yeah, sorry about that. Um, I mistakenly clicked on the URL, so it tried to open it in Edge. But the device tried to first reach out to NDES1 URL. But in this case, NDES, since we have powered off NDES, so it really didn't work out. After that, around a second later, so this is 3:58:53, then this is 358.54. So just a second later, now the device tried to send the CSR to the second URL. Not the CSR, first it's going to do a get CSR, get CA caps, and then the CSR is going to be sent. But over here it says that failed to initialize SCEP enrollment with the NDES server NDES 2. So first it reached out to NDES 1, it failed, then it reached out to NDES 2, that also failed. So around few seconds later, so this was 358.54, and you see at 359.03, now the device reached out to the third URL, that was demo indes. And if you check the next log over here, it says that SCEP installed successfully. So the moral of the story is, from the syncml trace, we can see that all the three URLs came down to the device. The device tried to reach out to NDES 1, it failed. The device tried to reach out to NDES 2, it failed. And then the device reached out to demo NDES and it was successful. So this is how load balancing of NDES can be done in production setup, wherein if any of your server goes down, there is nothing you really have to do. In your profile, all the three URLs are going to be present. So if any of the URLs goes down, the device is automatically going to pick the next one, and it's going to try to send the CSR and then get a certificate from that via that NDES server. So no active changes has to be done, and hence this setup is known as active, because at one point of time all the three NDES are supposed to be active and the load is balanced across all the three NDES servers. All right, so now we are going to do the second part of the demo. That is, we are going to deploy certificates from different certificate templates via NDES. So the first thing we have to do is we have to create these three templates in the CA. So very quickly, going to the lab, and over here you see that I am going to open up the MMC and certificate templates, right click manage, and I am going to right click on the existing template, that is EAI NDES, and then duplicate this. I am going to not make a lot of changes, just going to call this NDES2, and everything else I'm just going to quickly make sure everything else is fine. This purpose needs to be set correctly. So the purpose over here is going to be set as per this diagram. So the template that I'm making right now is going to be used for digital signature, and the corresponding entry in the registry will be for signature template, and the purpose is going to be signature. So over here in the purpose, I am going to select signature and just going to click yes over here. Cryptography is fine, key attestation is fine, security is also fine because I'm taking it from the existing template. Just make sure that the computer account for the NDES server and the service account has privileges over this, and subject name needs to be supply and request, and allow private key to be exported needs to be unchecked. Okay, so far so good, everything looks good, and the name of this is NDES2. So let me just click on apply and OK. So NDES 2 has been created. Similarly, I am going to duplicate this one more time, and I am going to call this one NDES 3. And everything else is again going to remain the same. So no changes have to be made except for this one. In the purpose, I am going to select encryption and just click on yes over here. Everything else is fine. Subject name, supply in the request, and permissions are already there. So just going to click on OK. Okay, so now what we are going to do, we are going to publish these two templates. So for that, I am going to right click on this and then new and then certificate template to issue. And over here, I am going to select NDES 2 and NDES 3. So just selected these two, just did a OK. Let me see if I have an option of deleting the ones that are no longer in use. Okay, no longer in use. Okay, all good. So now we have got three templates. One is EAI NDES, and then NDES 2 and NDES 3. What is the difference? EAI NDES has signature and encryption as a part of the purpose in the template. NDES 2 has only signature, NDES 3 has only encryption. Okay, so far so good. So the templates have been created, the templates have been published. What do we do? What do we need to do next? The next thing that we need to do is we need to populate the corresponding registries in the NDES server. So let's quickly, so all that we did right now was in the CA. So I'm going to minimize this and I am going to go to the NDES server and log into it. And these are my registry entries. We have got signature, encryption, general purpose. The general purpose is going to remain the same, which is EAI NDES, but the rest are going to change. So I don't, so one of them is going to be NDES 2 and one of them is going to be NDES 3. Just to be double sure, I am going to click on manage and just open NDES 2 again. So NDES2 is set with signature. So the signature template is going to be updated with NDES2. Okay. And over here, NDES3 is containing encryption. So the encryption template is going to be NDES3. Sorry, you need to make sure the naming, the spellings are correct always. All right. So NDES3. Okay, looks good. So EI NDES, NDES 2 and NDES 3 looks good. Okay, let's close this. So over here, EI NDES, NDES 2 and NDES 3. The new NDES and NDES, let's just ignore these two because they are being used by the other two NDES servers that I have. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to reboot the NDES server because we have made a registry change. So very quickly, let's initiate a reboot. Okay, so we are going to create the profiles now. And as we have seen in the diagram, there are three profiles that we have to create, right? The first profile is going to be for, it can be for the same user or different user as well. I am right now going to assume that the same user needs three different certificates, but the assignment is pretty much straightforward. But what essentially we are going to do is we are going to create three profiles. The first profile is going to contain digital signature. The second profile is going to contain key encipherment, and the third one is going to contain both. All right, let me just make sure my external URL is working fine because my NDES server is up by now. Yes, it is. So let's very quickly create three profiles. So Windows 10 and later, and then templates. By this time, I'm running out of ideas for creative name for NDES. So let me just call this one NDES. So everything is pretty much straightforward as we have seen before. The only thing we need to keep in mind is the first one is going to have the key usage of digital signature, and the rest of the settings are going to be pretty much same. All right, so the first profile has been made. Let's quickly assign this. Similarly, we are going to create the second profile as well. All right, so this is all ready to be assigned. The only difference being key encipherment selected over here. Okay, all done. And now we are going to create the third one. And in the third one, we are going to select both the option, that is digital signature and key encipherment. Okay, all set. The options have been selected successfully. Let's just assign this. Okay, so all the three profiles have been assigned. Let's quickly go to the devices and run a sync for the device. And then we are going to wait for the profiles to come down. So just finish running a lot of syncs, and if I go into device configuration, okay, there you go. One NDES, two NDES, three NDES, all three of them have been deployed successfully. So first things first, let's go to the device and see whether we are able to see those certificates or not. So I'm at the personal store in certificates. Let me do a refresh. And over here, you can see there are three certificates all issued to the same user, that is EPM. But well, that is not the main thing. We need to see that from which template these certificates came from, because that is what I'm trying to demonstrate here, right? So I am going to go to the CA and then let's open up the MMC. issued certificates. And if we scroll all the way to the bottom, you can see the last three certificates, 41, 42, 43, all issued to the NDES, all issued via the NDES service account. Let's take a look over the name of the template that was used to issue the certificates. One of them was EAI NDES, and the other one was NDES 2 and NDES 3. So this is in accordance with the registries that we had in the NDES server. So over here we have EI NDES, NDES 2 and NDES 3, which matches the templates from which the certificates were issued, which is over here EI NDES, NDES 2 and NDES 3. So hence we can say that we can conclude that by using just one CA on your left and by using just one NDES on your right, we were able to issue certificates from three different templates, being AI NDES, NDES 2 and NDES 3 with the same setup. And the reason why this is important is, let's say that we have got three different users requiring three different kinds of certificates, and when I say kinds, I mean there is some specific parameter in each certificate template which is conflicting with the other. Therefore, we cannot have all those three parameters in the same certificate template. This is wherein this methodology can be of use. Hence, we were able to meet the use case of what we discussed in the theory of deploying three different certificates from three different certificate templates using the same NDES and CA setup. So that's all I had for the demo. And if you guys have been patient enough for the entirety of this nugget, then I wanted to let you guys know that I'm always reachable. So if you guys have any feedback or have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on my cell or on WhatsApp or on LinkedIn. Now, this is not any attempt at doing any kind of promotion. Just wanted to let you guys know that I am reachable in case I can be of any help. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope that in this session we were able to understand the background and the need of load balancing, how exactly we can have load balancing and redundancy of NDES in our production environment, and how we can deploy certificates from different certificate templates with the same NDES and Intune. That's pretty much it, guys. I hope this has been informative for you. I would like to thank you for viewing. This is your friend Saurabh Sarkar signing off.